You know, Ubisoft weren't always the god-awful company they are today, shoveling out the same garbage year after year. Ubisoft have been responsible for many great games, but perhaps most notable of all is Beyond Good and Evil, due to its commercial failure but critical success. So let's take a look back at Ubisoft's cult classic. Beyond Good and Evil has a very fleshed out and well realised setting to say it's currently the sole entry in the series. It takes place on the planet Hillis, which is home to an array of humanoid species, including our two main characters, Jade, a human who makes a living as a photojournalist, and her adoptive uncle, Paige, a sus sapien or pigman. Jade's job as a journalist takes a large role in the story, as she is asked to gather evidence of a government conspiracy pertaining to an ongoing alien war over multiple planets. It also ties with the gameplay, as Jade's main source of income will be documenting the planet's different life forms for a collectible style quest. This is one of the game's main draws for me, as the creature designs and their placement around the various areas of the world always gave me the feeling that there was something new to discover around every corner. Though not nearly as large as modern open world games, the game provides a sense of scale through traversal around its world map with an upgradable hovercraft, which is used to reach the game's dungeons and the main city. This city especially is a visual marvel in PS2 terms, with some great water effects and bustling environments filled with flying cars whizzing back and forth. Beyond Good and Evil also takes a page from The Legend of Zelda's book of game design and drip feeds the player new abilities which give access to areas which were previously closed off. It's difficult to pin Beyond Good and Evil down to just one genre due to the amount of varied gameplay within. The game has you sneaking around dingy factories, puzzling through abandoned mines, and again driving the hovercraft over sprawling landscapes. The combat system is probably the weakest of these elements. It's very simple and not particularly challenging. Jade's attacks are merely one-button combos, and the direction she attacks in can sometimes be a little imprecise. An AI partner is present for most of the game who will fight on their own, but can use a special area of effect attack on command. The puzzles in Beyond Good and Evil are also a bit lacking, and are essentially slight variations on the same few puzzles. The majority of these involve pushing switches to avoid various types of laser beams, but the best of them comes later in the game when the player must guide the hovercraft through a mine-infested canal system. What the game lacks is almost made up for though, by the game's stunning animations, which are some of the best I've seen on the PS2. This is not just in combat, but extends to pretty much all the actions in the game. You can tell instantly that the animations were something that the team put a lot of effort into. The game's production values in other areas are superb too. Voice acting is well delivered, with a good variety of accents to drive home the multicultural nature of the game's setting. The main quest of the game is actually impossible to complete without much thought for anything else, but either way it would be a mistake to ignore the game's many hidden areas and collectibles. The level design in Beyond Good and Evil, in this respect I feel, is on par with the sort of thing you might otherwise have found only on the PC at the time, with games like Thief for example. Many doors require codes only acquired from the relevant, otherwise unremarkable character. The game's soundtrack is excellent. It holds a decent balance of epic orchestral score and some bizarre diegetic music that matches the colourful cast perfectly.
Hey, Jed, where you been hiding?
In terms of story, the final moments of the game are kind of underwhelming, if not baffling, but the music here really could not have done more to hold everything together and portray the urgency of the situation. Reading a bit on the history of the game, you can tell that Beyond Good and Evil was a real passion project for the team. Unfortunately, the game came out when Ubisoft had just overspent on marketing Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, so they were not willing to market this game properly. It's no coincidence that Beyond Good and Evil was a commercial failure, whereas Prince of Persia became a huge success. But I suppose it was a sign of things to come, when Ubisoft was so reluctant to produce the sequel that the fans have been asking for so long. Despite the announcement of Beyond Good and Evil 2, I feel uneasy, because all of the potential of the series lied in gameplay which I don't see them implementing in the prequel, such as the photography. It also relied heavily on the strength of its main characters, which are not likely to appear in the next game either. The original game left a fair few questions unanswered, and I think it's now way past the time that we should expect that they are going to be answered. Anyway, it's easy to see the many aspects which could have been improved upon in Beyond Good and Evil, but the way the game uses its many gameplay elements to tell such a focused and well realised story is the game's triumph. Whilst the game may not achieve any one of its systems outstandingly well, it does them all well enough and presents it in such a beautiful package that it makes it one of the best games to play on the PS2. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this review, please subscribe.